podcast.
You can't be fucking around with the papers though.
Why?
Because then there's gonna be all kinds of rustling and all kinds of stuff.
Man,
At least hold it away from the face.
Man, you be tripping. All right, whatever. Go ahead.
You know what? Whatever. Do what you want.
Bum podcast
On podcast.
between you and me.
Why you look at me like that's my lines? You know that's your line.
I was trying to help you out because you special, extra special.
On podcast.
Bum podcast. I said that one time.
Amen.
All right. Anyway, let's jump in.
All right.
All right. So today we're going to be talking about the 7 virtues of manhood.
Yeah.
And since you ain't a man yet, I wanted to get you jump started so you learn. How about that?
Sure.
Whatever. All right.
I'll let you say that I'm not a man so you can continue to pay rent.
Oh. But after we get finished with this conversation, you'll be a man. So these are 7 virtues of a manhood as were written by someone. And so I'm not going to say these the total 7 virtues for anybody, right? But based upon this book's called Play the Man, there were 7 virtues of manhood, and I thought they were pretty good, right?
All right.
And so I just got finished doing a study on it, and so I just wanted to kind of discuss these 7 virtues of manhood and hope that they help out you or, some of your friends, some of my friends, or whoever's out in the listening audience.
So we're going to be judging it based off of whether we think it's true or untrue, not based off of whether we think it is all-encompassing.
Nah, man, I think they're all true. I just want to just have a conversation.
So you
about
already think they're true.
I already think they're true. I think it was good. I just want to have a conversation about it to kind of expand on it so that it can be palatable. Because I mean, somebody else might not read the book or whatever, and so just give our thoughts about what his virtues are, so that it be palatable and what's the other word? Suitability. So to be suitable and palatable.
I can do that.
All right, cool. So 7 virtues of manhood from this book called Play the Man. The first virtue is tough love. Tough love. And it says, here's what I mean by that. Being a tough guy doesn't mean sticking up for yourself when you get offended. A true tough guy sacrifices himself for the sake of others. Wait a minute, what?
Being a tough guy doesn't mean sticking up for yourself when you get offended.
Yes.
A true tough guy sacrifices himself for the sake.
There we go.
I can agree with that. I feel like getting easily offended isn't a sign of strength. Or
True.
feeling like you have to defend yourself and you have to fight all the time. I think it's more a sign of insecurity and weakness than strength.
I agree with that.
So I definitely can agree with being a tough guy. Like, it's not tough for you to feel like you got to stick up for yourself all the time because you're always offended.
Right.
Sacrificing himself for the sake of others. You think that's a virtue that makes a man?
Well, I'm gonna tell you, like, I understand. I do. As I'm processing in my head, and I'm like, I don't know if I'd quite call it tough love because it's not what we look at as tough love. But I think I ascribe to the meaning that he has behind it. And if you want to call it tough love, I let him call it. But sacrificing yourself for others, I think, is tough love. Well, hard love, I guess, is more like it. Because, like, when you look at love, and I've learned that, like, I mean, I guess there's a bunch of different definitions of love. But if you go back to the Greek foundation for the words of love, you got eros, you have agape, and you have philia, right?
Right.
And so when you're looking at those, you got agape love, which is that unconditional love, that undying love. And I think that's what is falling under tough love for them. And so it's like, and I know me and you had this conversation. It ain't even really a conversation. I'm always making this comment to you like it ain't about you. It ain't about you. And I think this is where this falls. It's like when you can step back and say, hey, I'm going to sacrifice the greater good for myself. Well, not even the greater good for myself, but I'm going to sacrifice the spotlight right now for me so that somebody else can shine. So
I'm going to, I guess, explain or tell what my view of it is, I guess.
Okay.
Talk about my hang-up with it, but then also there's a certain context in which I could see this being the truth.
Okay.
So I don't disagree with that being an important thing, an important character to have.
Virtue, not a character.
Virtue to have. So my hang-up would be I don't necessarily see that as a mark of a manhood or being a man in general, I would see that as extending past that to being a good man or to being a certain kind of man, but not necessarily that's manhood. That was my first original hang up with it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when it's talking about through a context of I guess getting the job done or providing or things like that, and through the lens of it's not about self, it's about accomplishing what needs to be accomplished,
Mm-hmm.
I can definitely see it in that. But I feel like the sacrifice. Let me read it again. God sacrifices himself for the sake of others. I feel like that is more of a like a compassion or a empathy or something else that isn't necessarily just you have to have compassion or empathy innately to be a man type of thing.
Okay, so I'm gonna disagree with you.
All right, you can
I was
counter
with you.
that
I was with you until you got there, and then I'm
until
like,
I got there.
yeah. And then I
Okay.
went and I looked up what virtue is, and it says the conformity to a standard of right morality,
All right.
right? And so it's almost like setting a standard. Is basically what the virtue is. It's like setting a standard. And then when you start saying what you were saying, I realized that as a father, right? As a father, it's always about me sacrificing.
Right.
It's always about me sacrificing. And so,
Well, that's what I meant when it came to this terms of like providing, or it's your job to make sure that everything gets done in spite of what you're feeling maybe at the time or how you feel about the situation. Business has to be handled.
well, and you know, and it so for fear of getting into roles, right?
Uh-huh.
For fear of getting into roles, because I don't want to make this a role conversation. I'm just old fashioned.
I'm not scared of the conversation.
Well, it's not about you being afraid of the
Oh.
conversation. It's about I don't want whoever is listening to this to think I'm coming off and saying that men are the dominant and females are the, you know.
Well, I'll tell you what I think.
Go ahead.
So I think this is encompassing. Well, this trait especially, I think is represents a head.
Okay. Yep.
So like the head, the head of the household or whatever that may be. So if you see yourself in that role, then this is a trait that you need to develop in order to do it properly, to do it well, to really
Okay.
encompass that role.
I was going beyond that though. I'm with you there.
And I was gonna say, but just as between me and you, as wanting to be the man of my household, to be the head of my household, taking on that role. That's what it looks like for me.
Okay.
So talking about it through that perspective.
Okay. Well, so here's the thing. And so I think it's something that has to be developed before it's needed.
I agree.
Okay. And so the way it's developed before it's needed is by practicing it when you don't have to.
Okay.
All
I
right.
can see that.
And so that's why I can accept as being a virtue of manhood, because what I'm saying is if you can live a life, like say for instance, it's funny. You see people make light of this, but you see a woman walk up to a puddle, and then a man takes off his coat and lays his jacket over the puddle so the woman can walk over it. Like sacrifice. That's that's the mindset that I'm getting. Or like it's hard now because I was out yesterday or the other day, right? And I was sitting next to your mother, and it was another lady that was standing up not far from us, and she seemed to be a little older than me, right? And so my first thought was, I need to get up and offer her my seat. But now that we're in COVID, you can't very well get up and offer somebody a seat right next to somebody else because you got to keep that 6 foot distance. But that's that whole mentality of sacrificing my comfort for the greater good. Because I feel like really that is the mark of manhood. Because we should be willing to sacrifice even when a child doesn't want to, or even when a woman doesn't want to.
You know, I'm not gonna say it's funny.
Go ahead.
But it actually is funny.
Okay.
In this situation, because I watched a comedy special. I can't remember who it was, but basically he was talking about the way that he was saying men and women love differently. Is what he was saying. The way that men love is through sacrifice. And men sacrifice so many ways that like your significant other, your girl, your woman, your wife, whatever, wouldn't even understand. They don't understand the sacrifice.
They're oblivious to it.
As simple as just like you laid up with your boo, you're laying on his arm. I don't want you laid there. I can't feel my arm. So he was just talking about it's simple sacrifice that isn't even noticed. So thinking about it in that context, like even the lay down your coat, things like that, it's a lot of subtle, subconscious or things that fly under the radar type of sacrifice. I can see that. That makes sense.
That's where I was going. That's it. That's it. So from that perspective, tough love seems like not necessarily the right thing to call it, but based upon the concept, I accept and ascribe to the concept that he's talking about.
Maybe tough love more in like a perspective of it's not easy.
It's tough on me. It's tough on me. Hard love. Yeah. So I can get with that. So I'm cool. All right.
Second virtue.
Yep.
You want me to read it?
Go ahead.
So the second virtue of manhood is a childlike wonder about the world. And we've kind of spoken about this a little bit.
Yeah, we kind of spoke about this a little bit.
Read on.
Yeah, go, because I think you get this one.
Okay. According to the Pew Research Institute, half of adults read fewer than 5 books per year, and men read 13% fewer books than women. I don't know if you're above average or below average, but 5 books a year doesn't cut it, especially since most men, myself included, average 20 hours of ESPN per week.
All right, so stop right there. Tell me about that. Tell me you thought about that. Like, and you can actually substitute ESPN with social media. You can, you know what I'm saying? YouTube and social media.
So it's like you're taking the time to consume things, so you can be consuming. I can see that.
Okay, all right.
The most important law of ecology is this: L is greater than or equal to C.
Yes, L is greater than or equal to C. Go ahead.
All right. For an organism to survive, the rate of learning must be equal to or greater than the rate of change happening around them. Bar.
Yeah.
With the rate of change escalating, we must learn faster, learn better, and learn more. All right. I can get behind that.
Okay.
As a pursuer of knowledge.
And a connoisseur of social media.
I'm not a connoisseur.
YouTube, man. Come on. YouTube, social media.
Well, so I use YouTube for knowledge.
Right. I know. That's why I said that.
Yes.
That's why I said that.
Okay. I'll agree with you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
I think, and I've spoken about this before on the podcast, it's very important to always be learning. Always be growing. If you're not growing, you're dying.
If you're not growing, you're dying.
So reading books is a great way to do that. Of course, there's other ways as well, but make sure that I don't know. I saw a tweet about this. It was we don't learn anything about our own bodies, but we be learning about snakes 50 countries away that we'll never see in our lives.
Oh wow. Okay.
And so even more so than just learning information, learning relevant information is even more so important. So yes, I can agree and ascribe to that. I think that's important.
Yeah, and I agree, because I like, so it's cool to gather and gain knowledge, right? But I know people who have just gained frivolous knowledge just for the sake of throwing it out,
right?
But they don't apply it, and it's almost like what we talked about last week. Last week was knowledge is not enough or something like that, and it's like you get this knowledge, but you're supposed to get the knowledge in order to apply the knowledge. Erudition. You're supposed to get this knowledge in order to apply this knowledge, and this virtue, I guess, takes a step back, because it's saying is to have a childlike wonder means you need to acquire knowledge. Right. But then when you get it, with all that get understanding or and get application.
Right, because I'm a believer of it's more important to know concept than fact. From the standpoint of, you can learn all these little facts that can, like, I can throw out a fact for this or throw out a fact for that. But it's different when you really grasp a concept. There's a difference. So it, and even just in my life, I know, this is in college, I have a few acquaintances, but I went to this guy's house and his friends were there and they were having conversation, and I was a part of the conversation, but in a moment of the conversation, I took a moment to kind of sit back and just kind of like, I really respected how much knowledge that they had in different concepts. So we could be having a conversation and it would be about like a certain topic, and I just read this. I just learned about this. I was doing research here and this applies to that. And so that was really, I don't know what the word is for it, but I really had respect for that. And it caused me to kind of look at myself like, am I going out and learning relevant information that I can apply to my everyday life or everyday conversation?
Yeah.
And so I just thought that seems so adultish. Like, wow, these people are grown.
A virtual manhood.
Even as far as just talking about, which is this is kind of off the rails, but like it's one thing to talk about people or to talk about events, things like that. But when you can kind of talk about ideas and concepts,
Right.
and so you have things to pull from and wealth of knowledge to use, I think that's really important for having growth.
I think that's quotable right there, what you just said, because that's the truth. I mean, the ideas and concepts above all.
Right.
Because it's one thing to look at current events, but if all you can do is consume current events and spit them back out, I mean, come on, you're no different than a news source.
I was gonna say, especially in the nature of how we see current events nowadays, because we get current events out of the mouth of somebody else. We're not sharing our own perspective.
Right.
Anyway, we're kind of just sharing what we've read or what we've heard. So when you can understand something to the point where you can kind of add your thought process and like, how do I filter this through my thought process
and expand upon it?
Right.
Like just like I was just saying, like this is a study I did.
Right.
But I don't want to, regurgitate what their study is. I actually want to have a genuine conversation around it and make it suitable and palatable for people who eat, look, think like we do. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what it's all about. But it's also about like it says, having a childlike wonder. Is like if you see something that piques your interest. Like, I mean, I don't want to talk about your current endeavor. If you can, if you want. But if you see something that piques your interest, like Japanese, right?
Yeah, I just to update y'all. Since last week, I've started learning Japanese, which is incredibly interesting, actually. But I'm making pretty good progress.
Yeah, I mean, you're always trying to write and speak it around me, but I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. But the thing is, but that's having childlike wonder, right? Because now, I mean, that the world is flat, you're actually incorporating a skill set that will allow you to do more than the average person.
And it's so interesting. I'm not going to get into it, but it's really interesting, just the concept and the understanding and the fundamentals of how the language was developed. But that's enough for that. Childlike wonder.
Childlike wonder, yeah. So childlike wonder, that's what that's all about. All right. So read more, have a childlike wonder, learn more.
Right.
The third virtue of a man is willpower.
I think that's huge before even reading on.
Okay. You said before I read on. So
no, you can go ahead. I was just throwing that out there.
Yeah. It's so there's a there's a quote here, and I remember when I first gave you this quote and we had to discuss it, was make decisions against yourself.
I remember that.
A man by the name of Jack Hayford said, the greatest thing that you can do is make decisions against yourself. The distinction between permissible and beneficial is the difference between good and great. Don't settle for what's permissible. That's the path of least resistance. Go after greatness by going the extra mile. And so I'm going to tell you, I really like that whole willpower thing. The one thing I always tell people, man, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, you got the right to do what you want to do, but is it the right thing to do?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that's one road that we're going down as a nation, as a culture, as a world, where we are becoming wiser about the latitude that we have in actions, right? The latitude we have in actions. Like, really, you can't stop me from doing what I want to do. There was a time where we felt like, well, I can't do this because. But now we're realizing you really can't stop me. And so now we're pushing the envelope as far as what we do. And I don't think it's the right thing to do, because sometimes we do things that really shouldn't be done. And so having the ability to curtail that, or having the ability to harness that, I think is a virtue of a man.
Just speaking on this concept, so I would even say this far. So in all, I would think this is the most important thing. But I'll say, at least for so far, I think willpower is hugely important, especially that whole make decisions against yourself concept.
Right.
Now, I might be biased because this is the hardest thing, I think, innately for me, which it would be hard for anybody.
It would.
But it was a hard thing innately for me that I have to make decisions to try to like strive and do that. And so that's why it kind of hit so close to home for me. Because even just in how, it's just so important to be able to, it almost goes along a lot into integrity and things like that.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
I'm such a naturally comfortable person, and I don't have to, like, it don't really matter what somebody else thinks I'm gonna do what I want to do,
Mm-hmm.
and all those kind of things that are innate to me. That I have to cause myself to be my own conduit for change,
Right,
almost.
right, right.
Because it doesn't. It's not gonna be somebody else saying, "Oh, I don't like that." That's gonna make me change what I'm doing. And so for me, it's kind of I get better at applying that to like different concepts, but I'm still working on all the time spread throughout everything that I do,
Mm-hmm.
having that. So because whenever I'm getting into something, I think something's important. That's something that I do. I'm a very raw turkey person. Um, how do I make this?
I ain't
How
lying.
do I relate that?
That
That kind of
sounded
came.
like
That was a
that
metaphor that
paddle
came out of
one.
nowhere.
That sounded like that paddle one thing you
Hey,
gave me.
So like cold turkey is what I
Cold
meant.
turkey, okay, cold
I'm a
turkey,
very
gotcha.
cold turkey person. So things like how we were just talking about, I started learning Japanese.
Mhm.
So like all of my social media pages are in Japanese now.
Oh dang, okay.
Or I type with a Japanese keyboard now. Things like that. I what's the word? Program is the first word I think that comes to mind.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of know
Condition.
condition is a better word. When I realize something is important and important for myself, I start setting up parameters and things that force me to continue down that path of getting better at that or acting against myself in that way.
Uh-huh.
Because it'll be more comfortable to do other things. But now I have to figure it out because I'm setting myself up to be forced to face this.
Right.
And so I'm just trying to take that whole approach to life instead of just like Japanese or eating right or things like that. I'm trying to kind of make that a more natural response for myself.
And I think that's important. And I guess that's why it's a virtual manhood.
Right.
Because if you can set up a central theme in your life to say, all right, I know everything that I'm going to naturally want to do is not the right thing to do, or it's not good for me. I'm going to set up my life so that I have willpower to say no to myself or
Right.
to go against myself. Like if I know that I know I'm running late, but I know I shouldn't speed. So I need to go against myself and not speed because I know it's the right thing to do. Now, there's no police present, so I can speed, but do what the right thing to do is. And I think that's very hard for people to do. And that's why I think harnessing it or being able to have willpower is definitely a virtue of manhood.
And I think that's something that you see just in all great people in general.
Mm-hmm.
I know one that always sticks out to me is like Muhammad Ali. Talked about that with training, how he used to hate training.
Yeah.
But he always in his head, it was like struggle now, working now, and forever live a champion.
There you
forever
go.
Be a champion.
There you go.
So it's not even about something being easy for you or something being comfortable for you, but it's when you know it's the right thing to do, then do it.
You're right. And I'm gonna tell you, it's funny. I got a song that's in my head, right? And so this is gonna be for the old school people that's listening out there, because the younger people ain't gonna know it. But Frankie Beverly and Maze, right, or Maze featuring Frankie Beverly, they have this song that's called "After the Morning After," and that's like one of my favorite songs, right? And the metaphor that comes to mind when I listen to "After the Morning After," like hindsight is 20/20 vision. It's almost like if you're doing something, even though it's even though you want to do it, it might not be the right thing to do. You're not going to know the payoff of it or the payback of it until sometime down the line.
Right.
And so if you can develop a willpower in yourself, it is willpower, right?
Yes.
Willpower in yourself to always ascribe to do those things that are within the parameters of what you should do and not just what you can do. When the payoff comes, then you'll be happy. Rather than if you stretch the boundaries and the payback comes and now you're suffering. And so
I just even wanted to stress, this is a conversation that I just had with a good friend of mine, kind of, and just talking about basically willpower and integrity and your foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And just like once you say yes to something once, it's hard to say no. It's even hard to say no to it later.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a snowball effect of when you kind of have a lapse in willpower.
Yes.
So you really want to avoid doing that. Like, I can't remember who said it. It might have been Michael Jordan. It was one of those type of characters, but he would never give up because if you give up once, then you tell yourself that it's okay to give up.
It's okay to give up. Yes.
And so no matter what, I always fight. I always work until I can't no more.
Yeah.
And so it's important to kind of, that willpower is really important. That's building your backbone. That's
It's funny
having a stable foundation.
One of your favorite people, Kevin Hart, I just heard him say something to that effect. Almost like, don't quit because by quitting, you're letting yourself know that you can quit.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Even if you're not successful, don't quit.
Right.
And so that you're right. Just building that whole mindset and that whole lifestyle of having willpower and saying no to yourself, I think is very important.
I think it's very important to be
Yeah.
just successful in general.
Cool. All right, so we're going with
4.
Are we on 4?
Yes.
All right, cool.
The 4th virtue of manhood is raw passion.
Raw passion, almost like your raw turkey.
Uh-huh. I agree with this one. I think it's very important. But it says it's a lust for life that doesn't settle for status or status quo. Feel that? It's an insatiable energy that motivates you to live each day like it's the first day and the last day of your life. Very interesting.
Okay. Why is it interesting?
Very interesting. I think it applies in a bunch of different areas because I think it's important to have like passionate pursuits in life in general.
Mm-hmm.
So like, what you want to accomplish, your goals and things like that, it's important to be driven. But even more recently, I've gotten into the idea of just passion about yourself and your life in general. What do I want to embody within myself? What character traits? What do I want my life to look like? Now, through everything I do, through every aspect,
Mm-hmm.
I'm passionate in my pursuit of achieving what I'm going for. And that's across whether it's my work, my passion, any activity, eating right, being healthy, all these different things, just making sure you're the best version of yourself that you can be.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've just been looking at people that are really passionate about kind of striving to be their best in every aspect.
Passionate about pursuit.
And so even more so than just like for me, I'm striving because I'm going to do this music thing and all that. But just throughout life in general, how can I be the best person, the best version of myself all the way around?
Because the interesting thing about that is you become plug and play after that.
Right.
Which is what I liked about these 7 virtues. It's like they go across any discipline. You know what I'm saying? They go across any aspect of your life. And so if you put these 7 markers in place, not saying that they're the all end all be all markers, but just these 7, if you put these 7 in place and you live your life according to them, no matter what you pursue, I think there's a great opportunity for success. You hear what I'm saying?
No.
Okay. So this is something I always said. It's crazy, especially as a husband. Men, and this is about manhood, and so I'm just not leaving the women out. I mean, if y'all want to subscribe to this, it's fine. We're talking about manhood, though. I can't speak from a woman's perspective, but men are hunters by
nature.
By nature, yeah. Men are hunters by nature, and it's interesting with this whole raw passion thing. It kind of speaks to that being a hunter by nation. I'm a hunter by nature, and the thing is, if you don't find something to be passionate about, something to be passionate about will find you.
You want to know something funny?
What?
It's funny because this is current in my life, so it keeps coming back up, even with the Japanese, right?
Uh-huh.
So the reason I got into Japanese is because I was heavy into playing video games,
Whatever.
I got heavy into playing video games because a little bit of my competitive nature came out. I started playing a game with some friends, and I was the last person in. And I was like, dang, everybody's better than me. I want to be the best, though. And so a lot of time, a lot of hours went into getting to be the best. And no shade, but I mean, I'm pretty good, at this point. I think I'm top of my squad.
Okay.
But one of the reasons I kind of got into Japanese is just recently, I don't know, I think it was last week, I decided I was going to stop playing video games on weekdays.
Yeah, I think it was last week.
Because I figured I could achieve so much more and be so much more productive if I was spending time instead of like after any time I finish something, I go to the game or something like that. I could spend that time doing something else. And so the problem that came in for me was, all right, now I'm doing this no video game during the weekdays thing.
Now what?
Yeah, now what? Because okay, since I'm not just trying to get back to the thing, I would just finish everything. I've finished all my tasks, finished all of that. Now it's 7, 8 o'clock. I'm getting the text messages in the group chat. Yo, let's hop on. It's dub time. Let's go. I'm like, dang, well,
I
I
might
could
as well.
like
Yeah.
I don't have anything else to do. I could just fall back into playing the game since I've kind of fulfilled all my obligations. And so that's kind of where Japanese has been great. I chose to find something else that could be productive for my
Right.
life to do.
Right. Something you're gonna be able to carry somewhere.
Right. And so now Japanese is like the thing that, oh, in my free time, okay, now I can do this, I can enjoy this, and it's productive as well.
Right.
And so it kept me from kind of, I chose one thing so that I can end up falling into something else.
Right, and that's how it is. Because I know me and me and these guys, we used to go play golf. We used to have these golf tournaments, and that was the one thing we were saying. Like, you know what? So we out here chasing a white ball. At least we're not out chasing women, or we out there. We know
Right.
we are not out chasing. Because the thing is, we got that hunt. We have that hunt nature, and it's like, and it's so funny because mine, like, people have used mine to their benefit, not to my disadvantage, but it kind of helped me exhaust some of that hunting nature. Like if somebody want to find something, if they're shopping for something, they always call me or send me a message and ask me to find it for them because they know I'm gonna be tenacious about that
Right.
passionate pursuit, having that raw passion. Is what
Yeah,
I
you
think it
love
is.
to shop, is what you're trying to say.
I love to shop with other people's money. I don't like spending money.
I
I
can
like
agree with that.
I like hunting, and so that's a way for me to actually hunt without it necessarily going against me, but it also benefits
That was
others.
one of the best things about college, helping somebody else pick out their groceries.
Yeah, you know what I'm
You
saying?
just love that. Oh yeah, should I get this? Oh, that looks like it'd be real good. You should get that. Yeah, your mama paying for that, right? Oh, okay.
So raw passion is the fourth virtue of manhood. So got to be about that. Fifth virtue of manhood is grit,
All right.
and that's not the grit you eat.
Mm.
It's grit. Grit is the place where passion and perseverance meet. It's resilience in the face of rejection, fortitude in the face of fear. It's a no guts, no glory approach to life, even in the face of impossible odds.
Um, that sounds great. Before we get into that, I just want to this is a tangent,
Go ahead.
but you brought up grits.
I did. You want grits?
Not that I want grits.
Okay.
Grits with sugar. What's up with that?
I don't know, bro. I
I
don't eat
know
grits and
some
sugar,
people
man.
like that.
I don't eat grits and
My
sugar.
thing is always like, if you want something sweet with that consistency, just eat some oatmeal.
Oatmeal. But they got
But,
like, cream of wheat. You might eat sugar with cream of wheat. I don't know, man. But no.
I don't know.
I mean,
I'm a salt, butter, some cheese, and my grits kind of person. I just want to
man,
put
give me
that
butter. I
out
don't
there.
even want no salt, man. Just give me some butter in my grits. Maybe some cheese.
Yeah, I'm cool with
sometime.
that too.
Yeah.
I'll just use cheese, but I like cheese.
Yeah, no. So you're barking at the wrong tree about that.
All right.
All right.
All right. That was just a little tangent.
Yep, never had it.
All right. Great.
And I used the word a few minutes ago called tenacity, right?
Uh-huh.
And that reminds me of grit. But it's like,
It's a great word.
falling off of the of the raw passion thing and now coming into grit. It's saying you got passion, and now you need to have perseverance. It
Mhm.
means you got to be, you got to go after it. You can't let it go. You got to, consistently chase it. And so, that's where that fortitude in the face of fear. Like, even if it seems like you might fail or you might not do well, don't give up. Go after full force. That's that grit. It says, let's say, even in the face of impossible odds, going after it. That's that grit. And so, I can definitely see, because as a man, and I can speak as a father, as a husband, but as a man in general, like, we got to be the last line of resistance.
Mhm.
If everybody else quits, we got to be here to toe the line. And so, odds are always against us, but they can never defeat us, because we got to be the last. If you fail, fall still fighting. If you fail, fall still fighting. Don't give up whatever you do. Eyes front, head high to the finish, see it through.
Yeah.
That's in my psyche. That was, that's ingrained in me. And so that grit says that, even if I want to give up, I can't. I got to do it. I got to push for it.
So I've had a lot of stories today, but I have another one.
Go ahead.
So this was, I guess, a few months back at this point,
Mm-hmm.
but I was in a call. It was a Zoom call with a few people. It was me, a bunch of college students, select college students, and it was some people from the entertainment industry.
Okay.
And there's this lady in there. I can't remember her name for the life of me, but she was just talking about her experience. She moved out to the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
She wanted to. She's working in film and in TV. She wanted to. It was either direct or produce.
Okay.
But she was just talking about how like West Coast, California is where she was at. Is really that space for dreamers. A lot of people go out there to pursue their dreams or their goals or their passions and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so you see a bunch of people come out and you see a bunch of people leave.
Yep.
You see a bunch of people. They go through so many no's and doors closing their face and that kind of thing. And so you kind of see people that lose that drive and end up like going back home or things like that. And so she was talking about kind of how she got through. And her thing was she's seen so many people come, so many people go, that whenever she went through something negative or she got rejected or got a no, her thing that she would always say to herself was, this isn't going to be the thing to break me.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's like the message that she continued to repeat to herself to make sure that I'm going to push through no matter what. I'm going to keep going because this won't be the thing that breaks me. And so that was just a pretty inspiring story from that young woman.
Okay.
So,
and I think it's important, especially for what the line of work you're pursuing. You have to have grit, bro.
yeah.
You got to have grit. But I mean, it's I'm going to tell you, everybody that's adult male is not a man.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And they have to ascribe to some of these virtues. And we got so many adult males that give up. You know what I'm saying? That quit, that settle for the status quo. And I think they do well by at least trying to pick up some of these virtues, because I think it could be the thing that really turns their life around. So
it's easy, especially when you have, because it's more comfortable.
Oh, yeah.
To let somebody else do it. So especially when you have people that will fill that role for you, like maybe a significant other or a parent or that kind of thing, it's easy to kind of fall back and say, well, if I don't have to do it, then, they're here for a reason, that kind of thing.
And that's why I've always tried to push you. Like, look, bro, I'll meet you halfway, but that's as far as I'm going. The rest of the other half is yours.
You just told me that yesterday.
I so did.
Like, you in charge of your first steps.
Yeah, it is. I'll be your last mile. I'll be your last mile, but I'm not going to be your first mile, bro.
Right.
And I meant that. So, all right, cool. So that was the fifth virtue. Now we're going on to the sixth virtue.
Yes. What's the sixth virtue?
Oh, you can read it, bro.
Okay, I'll pull it up. The sixth virtue of manhood is a clear vision.
Clear vision.
It's helpful.
Okay.
I can agree with that. Men need something to fight for, something to fight against. It's how we survive the storms that are bound to batter us now and then. Without a vision, a man will waste his life. But with a clear vision, he's a force to be reckoned with. I agree with that wholeheartedly, because it's really hard to move forward when you don't know where you're going.
Yes, sir.
When you don't know what you're trying to achieve.
Yes, sir.
A vision, I think, is really important, even in just helping you to develop the other things that are on this list.
And it's funny because I used to talk, and this used to go more down the line of goals, but I think the same thing applies. I used to talk to people, and I say, like, this is what I want you to do. I want you to think about going out, like you're ready to play a basketball game, and you go out for warm-ups, and the basketball goals are there, and you're shooting at the goals and everything, and you're doing your layup drills and everything else, and then you go into the locker room before the game, and then when you come back out, the goals are missing. The baseline is missing. The whole outline of the court is missing. What do you do?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like, it's hard to function if you have no visual representation of what you're after.
Right.
Right? It's hard to function if you have no visual representation of what you're after. And so that's why I think it's cool. You got to have a clear vision. Because what happens is, if you have a clear vision, and I'm big on storyboarding or what do they call them, on vision boards, creative visualization, all those types of things. Because what happens, your subconscious mind is activated when it sees it.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And so even when you are not actively pursuing it, your subconscious mind is collecting all information necessary to complete the picture. And so, but in order for that to happen, you got to have that first clear vision. You got to visualize it. You got to put it out there. You got to study it. And then the whole universe conspires to help you to complete that picture. Right. So, yeah.
I already spoke on really what I had to say about it.
Okay. So, all right. So, six virtue of manhood is a clear vision. If you don't have one, spend some time. I know, like, even your mom, like, she would have us on our birthday sometime. Let's just sit down and develop a vision. Like, what's your vision for yourself for the next year? What's your vision for yourself for the next 5 years? I think that's important. I think it's important to have that vision, because you'll know what you want to attack. If you don't have a line of attack, again, anything that comes in front of you, you're going to run after.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It's really important to kind of figure out your vision, sit down, try to establish that vision, and then pray on that vision, meditate on that vision,
Yep.
all those things, making sure that you're vibrating at the right level.
We ain't gonna talk about vibrating, but hey,
just make sure that you're giving out the right energy to receive what you're
what you're
pursuing.
after. No, you're right on with that, and that's a good segue into the next one.
Okay.
And the next one says
Number 7.
Number 7, the final virtue is moral courage.
All right.
Right? Moral courage. And this is courage is not simply one of the virtues, right, C.S. Lewis, but the form of every virtue at the testing point.
That's deep. I like that.
Yeah.
Say that again.
All right. Courage is not simply one of the virtues, but the form of every virtue at the testing point. Right? Now, this says, where does moral courage come from? It says, from a conscience that is taken captive by a moral source. And I paraphrased that. And I said, in my case, it's God. This actually said it was from a conscience that is taken captive by God. And then it says the conscience is our spiritual operating system hardwired into the human heart, and it requires constant updating and upgrading. And I'm gonna tell you something. Like if and that's virtue is just about morals, right? And so what this is actually saying to me is that you have to have the moral courage to stand tall on the other 6 virtues, right? And how do you do that? It's about source. It's about, for me, it's God again. But it's like, it's about calibrating your moral compass, right? It's about calibrating your moral compass against something and then making sure that whatever your decisions are made or whatever actions or activities that you undertake, it is in line with that moral compass.
Right.
And so if you don't have a moral compass, you need to get one because it will guide what you do. Because if you don't have something to guide what you do, you'll fall astray. And I'm gonna let you talk on it because I sent you all a quote a couple of days ago that I think was in line with this, and I want to find it.
So this is kind of more in line with the conversation that I was having with that friend as far as foundation. It was kind of more so speaking to this topic, but that whole conversation was it's snowball effect. And so we were talking about myself. So I'm in college.
You're in college,
and of course,
for a little while long.
A big part about that transition from being a child to adulthood, I'm going through college and things like that. People always talk about finding yourself and that kind of thing. And I think in terms of speaking on finding yourself, I think the most important thing to find or to look for, develop while you're in a stage such as this, any stage really, but especially like a time right now where you have a defined line of you're transitioning into the next stage, is figuring out what your foundation is, what your moral code is. I'm very strong on moral code. And so, of course, in college, people try a whole bunch of stuff because other people's finding themselves look a little different than mine.
Right.
But so, of course, especially like less now because people know who I am and kind of know what I stand for a little bit more. But especially like freshman year, people are trying to get you to do things, ask you why you're not doing things, all kinds of stuff all the time. And so somebody could ask me something, but because I've taken the time to actually sit down and kind of figure out what I am about, what's strong on my foundation. So when somebody asks me to do something, I can clearly say to them, no, I'm not going to do that because that goes against my foundation. And I owe myself the integrity of not compromising my own foundation.
I love it. Yes, sir.
What I tell people. Because that's a snowball effect. You give up one chip of your foundation, then any of it can go. And now you're just out here running around. You don't really know where you're going. You don't have clear vision. You don't have all of these things because you have lost your foundation.
Right. So yeah, so that's good. That's good. It is being able to consistently rely on your moral compass to help you make the right decisions and do the right things. Have willpower, that kind of thing. And then it also goes on to say that it needs constantly upgrading and downloading or something like that. I can't remember what it was saying, but it means you got to constantly realign yourself with source, or in our case, realign yourself with God, so that His Spirit can be the thing that whispers in your ear to tell you right or wrong. Like a lot of people, they talk about you having, your conscience is the devil and the angel sitting on your shoulders. You know what I'm saying? But you got to constantly, you got to get outside of yourself, inside of yourself, outside of yourself, to center yourself so that you don't fall to the whims of everybody around you and what they're doing.
Just kind of recalibrate with that voice.
There you go. Yeah. Recalibrate with that voice. And so this quote that I found the other day that I sent you all is by Victor Hugo. And it says, change your opinions, keep your principles.
Yeah.
Change your opinions, keep to your principles.
It's valid.
Change your leaves, keep intact your roots. And that's what it's all about. It's like,
it hit me different this time.
Say what?
I said it hit me different this time.
Did it hit you different this time?
I might send it to some people.
Okay. So that's the thing. It's
somebody
like,
need to hear that.
It's like you gotta keep intact your roots. Like, I'm always talking to you and I'm saying, you know what, y'all, hey, context matters. You know what I'm saying? Because it may seem like what I'm saying is different from what I said last week, but let's go to the context of what I'm saying.
That's always well, this is a new respect that I've developed for you, sir.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Don't smile too much.
Oh, dang. Okay.
But we had a recent conversation because it's something you've been saying more recently.
Mm-hmm.
But it's I can tell you what I said then because it wasn't based off of how I was feeling. It was based off of, and I can't remember the word that you used, but it was basically it's based off of its principle. It's based off of the way that you see the world. So I can tell you how I feel about this and what I said about that because I didn't say it based on how I felt about that specific situation. I say it based off of the principles that I live by.
There you go.
And so that's something that I can definitely respect, sir.
Okay.
It's funny because the person, I'm just about to send this person a message and they just sent me a message.
Oh, wow. Okay. The universe conspired to help you. How about that? So, I guess that's it. I mean, the 7 Virtues of a Man, I think is 7 Virtues of Manhood was a study that I just went through and it spoke to me, you know what I'm saying? And so because it spoke to me, I wanted to sit down and have a conversation with you, see how you felt about it, and sift it out and send it out to our listening audience to see how they felt about it. So if y'all got any feedback on it, make sure y'all let us know. Send us an email or just, send us a comment. Let us know how you feel about the 7 Virtues of Manhood.
Yes, and I just sent that Hugo quote.
Oh, you
said somebody.
All right, cool.
Yeah, bars.
So,
all right.
Bum Podcast.
Bum Podcast.
Between you and me.
Between you and me. Holla.